Hi again guys, and welcome to another X-Tunes Extreme build on Gran Turismo 6, and this particular tune is a requested setup for the Tommykaira ZZ-II. One of the best cars in the game in terms of value for money, performance for money, bang for buck, whatever you want to call it. It's also one of the most dominating forces around the track. Definitely if you count it as kind of a street car, because it's not really, it's a concept. But still, most lobbies will allow it. Now, as you can see, this is built to the 650 pp level, which is not the maximum level. It goes up to about 653. But if you want to get it to that level, just do the full weight loss package. But we'll get more into that in a second. Now, I've fitted it with racing softs. I know a lot of people feel that that's overkill. It's purely down to personal preference. If you don't want those, don't fit them. It's magically simple. Then as far as the suspension, we've got the ride height on 55, front and rear. I haven't quite gone totally bottomed out because, well, for that very reason, you don't want the car to be bouncing and grinding on every possible bump and curb. Having that extra little 5mm can sometimes help. If you want to slam it, by all means, but do it on the right track. Something on the Le Mans, for instance, which is where I took this car, you don't necessarily want the car to be totally low to the ground. As far as springs, I've increased those to 1075 and 1125, the dampers to 5, I've left the anti-roll on 3, and to be honest, you could even take that a little bit lower, down to 2 or even 1, because it's that good. As far as camber and toe, we've gone neutral. As always, you could give it some if you want to, but I don't personally feel it that necessary on this car. As far as the gearbox, we'll come back to that in just a second. For the diff, I've gone for the lowest initial torque and then 30, as you can see, all round for both acceleration and braking. But again, depends on personal preference. I know that when it comes to things like suspension and diff in particular, it varies wildly from person to person with different driving styles. So of course, play around. If you already know a setup that works better for you, by all means go with that. As far as the centre split, I've gone for basically as close as possible to rear-wheel drive, which is a 1090 split. Again, put that wherever you want. Go all the way up to 50-50 if you want to. But of course, this is designed to have that 1090 split to increase manoeuvrability. Now, as far as power, we've done everything to it, including an oil change, and as always, if you want to detune this to a different PP level, by all means do that. I have fitted one of the optional rear wings and given it full downforce. I believe you can adjust the downforce anyway though, so I'm not sure what kind of difference that makes. I didn't compare the two. And as I said, if you want it to be its maximum possible PP of 654, actually not 653, then just give it that stage 3 weight reduction. If you want to round it off and use it more for restricted events, and there are quite a few 650 pp events that people have online, then of course just do what I've done and fit the window weight, but not the weight reduction itself. And again, downforce of course varies depending on the circuit. Now, as far as the gearbox, of course this is not primarily a top speed build. It's an all-round build. It's designed to be as quick as possible in a straight line, but with the caveat there that it also needs to be as good as possible, or at least great, around corners. So, it is quick in a straight line. Of course you could fit it with NOS to make it even quicker, but this thing can get up to around 265 on Route X. Obviously that's no way near as quick as it can go. I have a dedicated top speed tune for this car, which does like 285, 290, but that isn't the purpose of this one. You're running much more downforce. With NOS, or with draft, it actually hits the limiter at 275. So you've got a little bit of manoeuvrability there. On the Le Mans you can get it quite comfortably up around 230, 240, even without the use of NOS. Now I've fitted it, as you can see, with an auto setting of 249, then individual gears of 3, 1975, 1.4, 1075, 850 and 670 with a final drive of 3.8. And with this build, you can basically, as a general rule that is, just use the final drive to change the characteristics depending on the track. If you need it to have even more than 265 miles per hour of capability, then of course take it a little bit lower. If you're on a track where you don't need that and you just want to get through the gears quicker, or have them at least available sooner, then of course raise it. But that's it for the tune overall, and all that remains of course is to actually take it out on a track, which as I said is the Le Mans on this occasion, to see what exactly this thing can do. Now, of course, I have no doubt whatsoever that there are quicker tunes for the Tommykaira ZZ-II out there. Sometimes people have an issue with some of my builds that they're not the fastest or the best, when they fail to see that they're not actually designed to be. They're designed to be really fast for people who don't necessarily have as much experience with tuning, or for people who would like a tune setup that doesn't have to be as specific. Something that gives them a canvas to work from, and then they can change the smaller details to suit themselves. That's the purpose of my tunes. With that being said, this is basically a peak example of my style of tuning. Taking things like camber, throwing it out the window, and designing it so that you don't need camber, whereas other people, of course, do use that. That's not a bad thing, it's just a personal preference change. As far as performance though, this thing can, at least with me driving with this current setup, get around the newest version of the Le Mans with the chicanes in just under 3.5 minutes. So for the 650 pp level, as I said, it's not necessarily the quickest in the world, but it can definitely take on endurance race cars, prototypes, GT class machines, and definitely other road cars of course, and other supercars. So if you do decide to use this build, or definitely some variation of it, which I, as always, encourage, then I hope you have a lot of fun with it, and of course win plenty of events as well, hopefully. But if you'd like to check out other tunes like this on the channel, of course you can click through in the playlists at the end of this video, or subscribe down below to see new ones as soon as they're released. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.